Most of us never learned how to train our brains, which is why most of us needlessly settle, struggle, and worse, suffer. My name is Chris Doris, and I want to make brain training mainstream. This is my series, Tough Talks, Conversations on Mental Toughness. I'm interviewing badasses from all walks of life on what mental toughness means to them and their unique approaches to strengthening their minds. Hey everybody, welcome back to Tough Talks with Chris Doris, and I've got one of my favorite people in the world today as our badass guest. I wanted to show your book, buddy, but I've lost it. I'll still plug it, but I can't find it.
You know, it's not even for sale anymore.
Yes, it is. It's on Amazon. I looked at it this morning, and
is it really?
Yeah. You don't even know. Is it really? Yeah, you still have a book out.
Yeah. We haven't gotten any.
You got that going for you, which is nice.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you can't tell, I know this guy pretty good. We've been great friends, best friends for the last about 15 years or so, and colleagues. And that's one of my favorite things about this relationship is, you know, we work together and we play together. We've been around the world together. Question.
That's true.
Where were you exactly 1 year and 1 week ago today?
I was in Cambodia with you,
yes.
and based on the exact date that you're describing, I potentially had a python draped around my neck.
Yes, you did.
Right.
And we were eating alligator jerky.
Alligator jerky. Yeah.
Yep. Taking a boat tour.
You know, I still watch those videos all the time.
Oh yeah.
On my Instagram account. I mean, that 1 week, I mean, if people follow what I do on Instagram, they're going to see all this golf instruction, right? They're going to hopefully see some tips on how to be your best on and off the course. Then you're going to have about 10 days of just
tuk-tuks.
Lunacy, right? Madness.
Like, riding tuk-tuks.
Just happened to this. What just happened to this value?
Let me let people know who you are, okay? Before we go any further into it. So this is Jeff Ritter, everybody, and Jeff is from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where he went to high school, played high school golf actually with Jim Furyk, right?
I did.
Manheim Township, is that the name of the school?
Manheim Township High School, the Blue Streaks.
Wow. Wow.
Not much of a mascot. We're not quite sure what that is.
It's better than the Muhlenberg Mules, okay? So don't complain to me. And then after Manheim Blue Streaks, you became at New Mexico State University. What are they? We're
the Aggies.
Aggies.
And we share that moniker with about 20 other schools.
Yeah, like Texas, right? Exactly. Yeah. You've been a golf instructor all your life. That's one thing that you and I both have in common is golf has been a part of our lives from the get-go. Your dad, right?
You know, my dad was a club pro. I started playing when I was 3 years old. And for me, it was always like my mom would get up in the morning and she would walk into my room, you know, during like non-school times. And she'd be like, "Are you going to go play golf today?" And I would go, "Of course I'm going to play golf." She's like, "Well, there's one car going to the golf course and it's your father's." And this is to be at like 6 a.m. because my dad owned the shop. He would open the shop. So I would actually have to go down there in the dark, and I would sometimes sleep in the car. I would sleep in the back room and then help pull the carts out and do a little bit of work. And you know, I was there all day long until, you know, it was time to close the shop and go home. So like during the summer months, it was 6 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. just being at the golf course all day. And you know, I cared about my game a lot, and my dad was into coaching and learning about the golf swing. So that's kind of how I got my start in coaching. And when I was 16 years old, I actually started getting my first golf lessons at the course. I would play with some of the members, and you know, I guess they thought that, I mean, I was better than they were, of course. You know, I was pretty young, but you know, they would ask me questions about their swings, and I would offer help. And then they started asking if we could spend more time, and my dad was like, "Well, if they're going to pay you something, then go for it." So I started creating, you know, lesson plans and getting really excited about trying to help some of these members at the club. And back then, I mean, there was no, you know, video readily available. We didn't have all this new technology. So for me, it was like, you know, empirical data, you know, looking at what the ball was doing, trying to figure out what the club was doing to create that ball flight. I would take Polaroid pictures, right?
Nice.
I would take Polaroid pictures of their
That's awesome.
of their setup and their technique, and I would get a Sharpie and I would draw lines. This is your setup before and after. I mean, to think about how long I've been in the business is pretty crazy. So I'm 45 years old now. First golf lesson at 16. When I went to college, I started teaching PE classes in golf. Right, so I had weekly lesson plans that I had to deliver to 50 hungover students who really could care less about golf, right? So it was actually a good opportunity to try and, develop public speaking skills and try and engage an audience. Trying to engage an audience who truly does not care at all about.
It's good training.
I mean, a lot of times, when we speak in front of people, it's people that sign up and they genuinely want to hear what you have to say. But when you're standing there and you're 18, 19 years old in front of 50 people that literally could care less.
Right.
And,
that's good training.
That's good training.
Well, you've come a long way, my friend. Now you are. Now you are on stage. It's pretty amazing, and I think this is really worthwhile for people to hear how you've used the game as a vehicle, right? And you really have. Like I mean, think about where you are now. So you started then, right? And you're just on a lesson tee, and you're a kid. And you're taking Polaroid pictures, and you're just trying to help people hit the ball better. And now you use the game literally as a vehicle through which to reach people on a much bigger and deeper level, right, on their lives. And that's this, right? You are the CEO and founder of the Make the Turn lifestyle activation program, right? Which is interesting. Could you give us a short summarization of what that even like? Why Make the Turn? Why is that the name of it? And what's the point of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, my journey in golf has been pretty long and interesting one. It definitely wasn't a straight line towards where I am right now. I mean, my biggest dream in coaching was to one day be involved with Golf Digest, because back then there was no internet, and the only place you got coaching information or content was from Golf Digest. So Golf Digest would show up each month, and you would see David Ledbetter and Hank Haney and Butch Harmon. And there's probably a handful of coaches that the world would look to, because, aside from going to a library or a bookstore to get a book that you would read, I mean, that's kind of where golf instruction information came from. So I kind of coveted this idea of one day working for Golf Digest. And I did end up working for Golf Digest. While I was working for Golf Digest, I had my first opportunity just prior, doing some work for Golf Channel. So the last time I did Golf Channel, someone at Golf Channel said, "So have you ever, been on Golf Channel before?" I said, "Yeah, I was on Golf Channel 20 years ago." They're like, 20 years ago? So when I was 24 years old, I had a chance to do a 30-minute show on Golf Channel. So basically,
did you say 30?
20 years ago.
30 minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes. It was with Dave Pelz. Dave Pelz is short game.
Okay, all right.
Right.
Wow.
So, but my point is that, I started off at a young age. I went to college and tried to develop my skill. I got out of college, really had a lot of support and good opportunities with some relevant known entities like Golf Digest and Golf Channel. And then I ended up moving to Arizona, and I thought I had this big, awesome resume that people would admire and care about. And I found that they didn't. So, I did what every golf instructor tends to do, is they take their name and then they put the word golf after it, and that becomes your brand. So I was Jeff Ritter Golf. I got a website, jeffrittergolf.com, pretty straightforward. I had this bio where I'd worked for some relevant instructional operations. But what I realized is that the idea that I had in my mind of who I was and what my value was, and of course, the recognition that the average consumer might have, really didn't line up. So I found a place to give some golf lessons. I had one of those little sandwich board A-frame signs.
I remember.
But I didn't have the response I was looking for from a business perspective. I was in Arizona. There was a lot of people that were teaching golf, and I got to that point in my life, and this is where this whole story goes, where I had my first big oh no moment, right? Which is like, I've trained my whole life to do this. I work for all these great places, which give me some level of credibility. And now I'm in business for myself, and I'm not making any money, and I'm not making, or living the lifestyle that I thought was going to happen up here as a kid, where I thought that if I was going to be able to do things with people like Golf Digest and Golf Channel, where it would actually work out. So basically, I had a couple of really challenging years, and where Make the Turn came from, it actually started with having a mindset experience that really changed the way that I looked at who I was, as well as who I could potentially be. And you're familiar with this, and we've talked about this before, but for the folks that are listening to this, I did an exercise called the Jeannie List, right? And the Jeannie List was an exercise in imagination that was designed to get me thinking bigger than I was currently thinking and or living. And then from there...
Cool. So what is can you just back up a step, just say, what is that actual exercise?
Yeah, so the Jeannie List is...
Okay.
Yeah, the Jeannie List is sort of an exercise where you get a piece of paper and you write down some categories, personal goals, professional goals, family goals, other, right? And you sit down in a quiet place and you really try and spend a good solid hour or two asking yourself the question, if I had my own personal genie that held infinite levels of possibility and an unlimited number of wishes, what would I wish for? So if I could have beer, do whatever I wanted without any restrictions, right? And these restrictions we commonly put on ourselves due to our own conditioning or our current belief system. What would I be? What would I do? Right? And the cool thing that I found in doing this exercise was that there was a ton of stuff on that piece of paper that I never expressed before.
Wow.
To other people, to myself, because it was all an exercise in imagination, right? And through your imagination, you should have no limitations. So it was all about breaking through self-imposed limitations and really entertaining the possibility that I could have an alternate reality to pursue, to live in, right? So basically, you see all these things on this list, and once you see them, it's like, what do I do with them, right? And a lot of times, we're able to potentially express that we want to achieve something or pursue something, but then we don't do anything with it, right?
Okay.
So the next step in the list was all about, can I see something on here that is kind of amazing or exciting that I would really, really, really love to chase after? And then do I have the courage to actually create an action towards it, right? So what I did through this exercise is I started picking up the phone and emailing people, and the end result was leading me down a path that I never would have gone on, had I not, number one, done the exercise, and then number two, had the courage to actually act on the things that were within that exercise. And there were things like doing some big work with some magazines that eventually led to being on the cover. There was another one that was related to a dream of one day ending up on the grounds at St. Andrews. There was stuff on there about strengthening my relationship with my parents. There was stuff
let's
about,
slow down, slow down,
Yeah.
Okay? Because I just want to clarify for the listeners that all of that's become true. You've been on the cover of virtually every magazine, golf magazine on earth, multiple times, some of them, and you did your book signing on the 18th hole or the road hole. I can't forget, whatever, at St. Andrews.
Yeah. Well, so basically everything that was
the
on
open.
the list, everything that was on the list came true, and that was the crazy thing. And so basically, what I learned through this exercise is that the secret to what some people might call success, or the secret to living in an inspired existence, is being able to pursue the things that you genuinely want to pursue, and believing that amazing experiences are absolutely available to you. And it's not that I didn't believe that was possible before, I just never took the action to really connect with what I actually wanted, and then from there, move towards those desires. So
that right there, what you just said, is one of my favorite mantras in the world. Move towards.
Moving towards, exactly.
And that's really what you're talking about here. Well, the first step is clarifying, right? You sat down, and this is important to slow it down for people to hear this, because you're basically giving some really good advice right now you're answering my third question, which is like, how do you practice mental toughness? So you're already answering that with a very specific thing, which is the Jeannie exercise, to sit down, to give yourself some really sacred time, right? To reflect on one of the most important questions that we blow off, which is, what do you really want for your life? Like, what do you really want? Put aside what you think is possible and just get into imagination, right? And then move towards.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that, I mean, I
think I see a creature. And wait, I was referring to you as a creature.
Yeah.
All right, we have some special guests here. Oh my God,
that's a real show back there.
I wasn't referring to your wife as a creature.
She's
a
beautiful.
There's Puppy Penny.
I live with a couple of beautiful creatures. I'm lucky to have them both.
That is brilliant. I actually never got to it in your introduction because I was going to say so much more about you, including that you have a world-class nutritionist wife, Cate, who people should definitely check out. Cate's Nutrition Kitchen.com, right?
Just catesnutrition.com, and it's Cate.
Okay, catesnutrition.com.
That's right.
Right. And then Puppy Penny, of course, is I am so in love with that. I grew up with a golden retriever named Penny, and you didn't know that until when you got Penny and you named her Penny, you told me that, I went nuts because I
didn't know that because I didn't grow up with you.
No, thank God. So anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt it. I saw a creature.
Right. So I guess the big takeaway is that, number one, I challenge myself through this exercise to really write down some things that would be fantastic to me, right? That were rooted in fantasy, right? The things that were totally different and way bigger than the things that I was currently doing. And then I had the courage to move towards those things simply by making some phone calls, writing an email saying, hey, this is something I'd like to do. I think you're someone who can help me. Would you like to have a meeting? And every single thing on the list actually came true. It became my reality. So the thing that I learned through this exercise is really sort of the way things work. I mean, through our thinking, through our actions, we create the life that we live in. So basically, for me, it was, well, you know what? If everything I wrote down came true, then my challenge every day should be, how big can I think? And then how fast can I act? Because if my action always ends up, right, in this place that's in line with my desires, then why would I ever settle for anything less than what I really want? And the thing is, it's hard to know what you want until you sit down and think about it.
Well, that's a pretty big question right there, man. Why would I? Well, look, okay, so speaking of New Mexico, the Gallup industry does all kinds of research, right? And they do the polls, the census, and also they do, for 30 years they've been doing the same research study on American job satisfaction. You know the results. It's been the same for 30 years. 84% of Americans report disliking their jobs. That means that they're spending the majority of their life, that means the vast majority of people, over 8 out of 10, are spending the majority of their lives doing something they'd rather not be doing. So you just asked a pretty important question, buddy, which is, well, why would I settle? Well, why are they? Why are most of us settling? Why?
Yeah, I mean, I think because we believe that we have to. We've been conditioned to, I think we've been conditioned to do things that are safe, that in our minds produce a consistent and reasonable degree of income that allows us to maintain whatever lifestyle that we have, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that when we do that, we're operating out of this belief that we simply can't do more, we can't deliver more, we can't change the situation that we're in, and that's absolutely 100% untrue. And I think that there's this barrier of fear. If I step away from where I'm standing and move towards this thing that I really want, then somehow that safety net that I've created for myself, albeit a false one, is going to disappear, and I'm going to be left with less than what I currently have. And I think the big thing that people have to understand is that, it's only when you leap, right, that the net actually appears. It's only when you start moving towards what you want that the path presents itself. And the thing that I found
that's
is that
powerful right there. That's a powerful statement. Okay,
yeah,
that's a big deal because so what you're talking about is what I consider to be the number one obstacle that people come up against in terms of creating their lives on their terms, right? As somebody that's been in the helping professions my entire career, helping people try to upgrade their lives, right? And it's waiting for evidence that it's going to work to move, waiting to make the move, right? To move towards, waiting to initiate action until you have some kind of evidence or proof that it's even a possibility. Which means you could wait forever because of what you just said. The evidence doesn't show itself until you stop needing it and move anyway, and then it appears. That's fascinating. That's a big takeaway from this conversation right there.
The how doesn't present itself until you start. But I think a lot of people are conditioned to try and figure out every single action along the way, right? What's my strategy going to be? And of course, it's good to have a plan. It's good to have a strategy. But I think people spend way too much time trying to get the plan perfect when the only way to get the plan to work itself for you is to throw something out there and see what the result is. I mean, it's all about let's create an action and see a result. Let's create an adjustment. So it's all about just doing something, doing anything that's in the direction of what you want, and then from there, that's how the creation process.
Yeah, well, one of my favorite teachers, as you know, is Deepak Chopra, and he likes to say things in funky, confusing ways, which is fun. And I like to dumb it all down. But one of his mantras is, inherent within your desires are the mechanics for their own fulfillment. Right? Inherent within your desires are the mechanics for their own fulfillment. And the Chris Doris, South Jersey, Philly dumbed down version is, the how is in the what.
Sure.
Right? So what you're saying here is that the mechanics or the how are only activated when you initiate movement, when you move towards.
That's right.
Okay, so the mechanics present themselves once you move towards your desires. In other words, how it, okay, that's such a huge deal. I think that's so important for people to learn. Can we get back to the beginning though? Of this, which is
how this whole thing came together.
Yeah, and I appreciate you because I did the question that you're answering for the last hour and a half was, can you succinctly let the audience know what's the Make the Turn program?
Well, so basically, I started off as a guy that was just giving golf lessons, and then I had this really powerful life shift through thinking, through mindset, and when you're on the lesson tee, your clients, they become your friends, and when you're sitting there and you're helping them hit different golf shots and whatnot, you start talking about anything and everything. So the things that are happening in your life invariably become part of your learning environment. So I started incorporating some of these conversations in mindset into the golf lessons that I was giving. At about that same point in time in my life, I also had a powerful experience relative to fitness with Mark Verstegen, a company called Athletes Performance that I'm now known as Exos. But I literally changed my life from a fitness and a health perspective in a very powerful and profound way for me personally. And then along with all these things happening in mindset and fitness, I met my wife who is in the world of nutrition. So, how we think, what we eat, how we take care of our bodies, they all became part of who I was. And then, of course, who I was becoming also became part of my coaching environment. So along the way, I was asked the question, if you could do this whole thing all over again, what kind of business would you create and why? And I started to think about it, and I realized that the thing that would be most exciting to me would be to create a company that challenged me to be the best version of myself every day. And if the things that I were interested in were powerful for me in my golf game, then maybe other people would think they'd be exciting for them as well. And that's where Make the Turn came from. So it's an integrated coaching model that embodies skill building, mindset, fitness, and nutrition. Right? It's all about helping people get attached to their authentic desires, to unapologetically move towards experiences that would be exciting for them. And then to realize, we're at our best when we feel our best, right? And when I say how we feel, it's how we feel physically. can we move in a manner that's efficient and pain-free, first of all, and then from there, of course, the more powerful you are, the farther the golf ball is going to go. But also, how do we feel emotionally? And golf is such a mental game because your success is so rooted in your ability to create, control, or adjust your emotions based on results or outcomes.
So the Make the Turn is not a golf program.
Well, I think at the core level, when people come to see us, it's all about, how can I develop the skill to hit better golf shots and shoot lower scores? That's always who we're going to be, at step one, stage one. But the thing is that people that want more through the game, right? And so the game is what brings us together. It's
right.
like, if I have a golf clinic, I got 30 people there. They're all there because they want to play better golf, right? But there's so many lessons that are inherent within the game that help us not only go low on the course, but also be way, way better at everything that we do. So it's all about using the game as a vehicle, right? As a vehicle for growth, both on and off the golf course.
So just why Make the Turn is the name? What does that mean?
Well, I think if you're a golfer, the turn is where you make this transition from the front nine to the back nine. So based in golf-based terminology, make the turn is a common phrase, so to speak, for golfers. But for me, it means a lot more. And I actually did a lot of reading and research and tried to see where the phrase was used, not only as make the turn, but just what does it mean to turn or create a turn. And basically, I came up with this idea that the turn is when something that is ordinary shifts into something that's extraordinary, right? And I really liked that idea of taking, the life that we currently live, and many of us believe that we are living a very ordinary life, relative to the people that we read about or see on TV or hear about. But the reality is that we can all be the creators of whatever life that we want to live, right? And the only way you're going to do that is being clear with what you want, having the courage to move towards that, and then having a team of support or some systems and discipline that allow you to stay the course and really embrace this journey that you're on. And these are the things that I love talking about in a golf-inspired setting. I love the opportunity to connect with a golfer in a very common way relative to just hitting a better golf shot, but then have it turn into something entirely different where they feel like, what, I'm not only hitting the ball better, but I really feel like I've learned something today that can really help me profoundly in ways that I wasn't expecting when I walked in the door.
Okay. So as a golf guy, but as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, as a public speaker, as a husband, how would you succinctly, if that's possible,
get the wrong guy for this.
I know, clearly. Assume that people listening right now, just operate from the assumption, it's not a true assumption, it's a false assumption, but for the sake of clarity, operate from the assumption that people are watching this because they're curious to know, so what does this guy think? Like, mental toughness could be defined differently, just like the word reality, what's realistic could be defined differently by every single person you'd ask. So what's your definition of mental toughness?
I think for me, mental toughness is understanding that how you think literally creates your entire existence, your ability to be happy, your ability to achieve or do anything. It all starts with your mind. And I would say is that when you're mentally tough, you understand that. And you also are actively choosing to only use your mind in ways that help you have, be, or do the things that you want.
I love that. So let's wrap it up with some practical stuff. How do you practice strengthening your mind?
For me, everything comes down to awareness, right? Being aware of what I'm thinking, how it's making me feel, and how it's influencing my actions. And I think that all of us are manically going through the world at a very fast pace. And we always feel like not much is under our control. But the thing is that how we respond and interpret to the things that are happening in our lives, that's entirely up to us. So what I do on a continual basis, and this is something that takes all kinds of practice, is that I'm always trying to be aware of what I'm thinking, and then having that internal dialogue where I ask myself the question, is what I'm thinking now helping me, right? And is what I'm thinking now even true or not? I think a lot of times we tell ourselves a story that simply is not true. And one of the things that happens to me a lot less now is that we all want to move towards these things that are exciting to us. I'm trying to build a business. I'm trying to take care of my family. And throughout the week, we all have these moments of stress or anxiety related to to life in general. And the thing that I've gotten much better at is recognizing when I feel stress, and then simply being able to make it go away.
How? Tell me how. If you're teaching me how to do that, because I think that's a pretty handy skill.
Yeah. It's simply understanding that any stress that I'm feeling, it's all coming from my thinking, right? And then asking myself am what I'm thinking right now even remotely true, right? And pretty much 100% of the time, the answer is no. What I'm choosing to believe in this moment is creating stress, right?
Okay, so what you're doing, this is interesting because I just had a coaching call this morning with a client, and this is exactly what we were talking about, which was practicing becoming a curious, lighthearted, but curious observer of the activity of your mind. That's what you're saying, right? Because we get so caught up in our thoughts that we don't separate ourselves from that. And if we're feeling anxious, we feel like we're in this anxiety thing versus, oh no, I'm just actually misusing my mind right now. That's all this is, right? So it's so powerful to remember that we have a mind, but we are not our minds. We have thoughts, but we're not those thoughts. So I can detach and just observe. So what I'm hearing you say is this is really sophisticated stuff, this practice, which is watching your thoughts, being a little skeptical of them. Yeah. Not always trusting your thoughts. And I'm being in the inquiry, do I agree with this? Is this serving me? That's powerful, man. That's a powerful practice. And you started off perfectly by saying because the prerequisite to even be able to do that is awareness.
Well, and the thing I think is important is that, we're also concerned with being so perfect with our behaviors, with our actions, whether it be on or off the golf course. And I've just become very cool with, when I'm not doing well mentally, I don't get down on myself. I just say, you know what, just because you thought it doesn't mean you got to believe it. Let's move on. You know what I mean? So it's not like
I love that. Hold on. I want to screenshot that. That's I love that. I love that. That might be the smartest thing I've ever heard you say, Jeff Ritter. No, seriously though, just because I thought it, doesn't mean I got to believe it. That's a keeper right there. Seriously, that's a keeper. I love that.
And I don't get down on myself.
It doesn't mean I need to believe it. Wow.
Yeah, and not getting down on yourself. It's all about being aware of how you're thinking, then realizing you have an opportunity to change how you think and change how you feel. And it can happen like that. And a lot of times I think people beat themselves up because they're not thinking or behaving in the way that they should. But the thing is that the mind's a crazy thing, man, and thoughts pop into your head. And I know that we're the creators of our thoughts, and sometimes I don't know where they're coming from or why they're being created. But just because they're there doesn't mean that they have to be problematic, and it doesn't mean I have to look at myself in a negative way. So it's all about being aware of how I'm thinking, knowing that I can change it just like that. And I really had a lot of fun, sort of like controlling this level of anxiety. It's like, hey, I feel the anxiety. I change my thought, it goes away. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. And the thing is, I think that if people can truly understand that they absolutely, can change how they feel like that, then they have the most powerful tool you could ever have, because the majority of the people in this world feel way worse than they should. A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Right.
And when I share these mental toughness tools with junior golfers, for me, it's not only about impacting their game, but maybe giving them something that can be really helpful beyond the golf course.
Give me one more tool. So you talked about thought awareness, right? Paying attention to what I call being below the O line, which just means feeling bad, right? Whenever you're feeling bad, paying attention to it, tracing it back to your thoughts, and then challenging those thoughts or upgrading the thought. Give me one. What's another tool that you teach, junior golfers, for example?
Well, we use the O line for sure. I think relative to awareness, we always do the paperclip drill, right? It's all about catch and replace, right? So the paperclip drill is they tee up on the first hole, and they got a handful of paper clips they put in their front pocket, and it's really an exercise in awareness. So when they leave that first tee, their goal is to consciously become more aware of how they're thinking, right? As it relates to how they feel, because that obviously influences how they perform. So every time they have a negative thought, they've got to catch themselves like, hey, right now, I get the fact that my negative thought isn't going to help my golf shot here. I'm going to own that moment, and I'm just going to replace it with a thought that I think could help, a thought that's going to change my mood. So at the end of the round, it's not just a paperclip, right? So they grab the paperclip in their front pocket, they slide it in their back pocket every time they have a negative thought. At the end of the round, they reach in their back pocket, and they can actually physically count how many times their own thinking was potentially sabotaging their ability to perform.
Or at least how many of them they caught.
Yeah, how many they caught, right?
Because there were, and this is an important point. There were way more than they caught.
Of course, right? But for a lot of them, it's quite a pile of paper clips, right? Yeah. Because people never go through this exercise.
So you're having them actually because they would catch none of them otherwise.
And this is really important because in golf in particular, people have been conditioned to believe that when they don't get what they want, they need to be pissed off about it. Well, that happens all day long in the golf course because golf is challenging, right? Golf is a challenging game, and you better damn well be sure the ball's going to go places that you don't want it to go a lot, right? And how you respond to not getting what you want emotionally affects how you're going to do on the next shot. So one of the things that I bring this whole thing full circle with is we talk about, hey kids, have you ever heard that, golf is this great metaphor for life, And of course, they start kind of like rolling their eyes. I go, hey, I was the same way. When I was a kid, my grandfather goes, oh, golf's a great metaphor for life. And you're like, what does that even mean? Yeah. Why are you giving me this right now, right? And I tell the kids that I agree, and here's my interpretation of that. Playing a great round of golf is being totally clear with what you want, approaching that shot with total enthusiasm, and then being totally cool with whatever the result is. And then doing the same thing over the next shot, the next shot, the next shot. And that's how you, at the end of the day, shoot this lowest score available to you based on that particular round. Yeah. And I said, golf is challenging, but guess what? Life is even more challenging than golf. But if you can wake up each morning totally clear with what you want, approach every single action with total enthusiasm, and at the end of the day, be totally cool with what happened, then you have the best chance of shooting a great round of golf, but you also have a better chance of living a happy and inspired life. So to me, great golf is all about expecting the world and accepting the results, right? Beautiful. And I think living a great life is all about the same thing.
Amen to that, brother. Well said. Thank you for that, and thank you for your time today, brother. We're definitely going to need to do this again. We have a lot to talk about, and I think that there's a lot that you do that would be really handy for people to hear about in my audience. So I hope that we'll be able to do this again soon. Where do you want people to go to follow you? You're really active. Jeff is really active in a fun way, an informative, valuable way on a lot of social media. So where are the best places for people to connect with you?
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff on Instagram at MTT Golf. And
MTT, make the turn, MTT Golf.
At MTT Golf. Everything I post, I always try and make sure that it's of value to the people that are following along. Yeah, everything that we do, from skill to mindset to fitness nutrition, there's some of it that lives there. We're at MTT Golf on Twitter. We're at Make the Turn on Facebook. if they want to check us out on our website, it's mttperformance.com.
Right on. All right, man. I appreciate your time as always, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Chris.